Welcome everybody. Sorry I'm a little bit late. A couple of technical challenges. Hopefully I didn't lose many of you. So this is the kickoff challenge. So I'm excited to say that this is the Blu Poo kickoff, and hopefully most of you who have been following us have purchased your Blu Poo kit. If you haven't, I highly encourage it because there's an enormous why. Why should we do this? Why do we want to do and understand our transit time as well as our stool type? And let me remind you of the why briefly before we get into the actionable Blu Poo Kit. The why is simple. The GI tract and measuring the transit time and the stool type is incredibly informational, and it allows us to leverage so many facets of the intestine. To just mention a few, it gives us insights into our what we call the motor migration complex, and that exists from the top down. As we swallow, you can feel that peristalsis, that movement. After that, after it reaches the stomach, that stuff happens naturally or unconsciously, parasympathetically. So this is a complex that needs to keep things moving. If it does get disrupted for a number of reasons, a number of causes, we have to address those. Secondly, it gives us a really amazing view of the microbiota. The only thing better, the gold standard would be to do a stool microbiome analysis. But short of that, this allows us, this transit time and stool type gives us a number of really important insights, again, into the microbial function, the microbial layout, the diversity, and with those combination of tools, we can start to make some amazing decisions, right? We can activate and use actionable data from this to drive into a protocoling or a more of a clinical assessment. And so this is really where we want to begin. Now, because of that, I want to say that we developed this tool for such a reason, because the GI happens to be not only one of the most critical organs that we have, if not, it's the population, so statistics, clinical statistics of this, about 40% of the population suffer from some level of GI disruption, GI disease, GI insult. And of course, there's a range of things that can happen, but this range then ties back to, and can be tied back to, fairly accurately, to transit time and the microbiota. Just to name a few, if we have a slow transit time in the upper GI, the small intestine, that is correlated or highly associated with things like SIBO and SIFO, which are small intestinal bacterial or fungal overgrowths. In the lower, the large intestine, it's associated with IBS-C, which is IBS constipation, or IBS-D, diarrhea, IBD, intestinal bowel disease. These are just the beginning. And now, in later episodes and later trainings, I intend on moving from just the GI and the microbiological inhabitants, the ecosystem, into how they not only influence the things I just mentioned from the GI, but they absolutely influence deeper into the body, and we'll get into that later. So without further ado, that's the why. That's why we want to do this. And it's an inexpensive, and I hope fun, in fact, a good place to start the chat, to get people thinking about their GI movement, how their food is moving through, what their diet is doing, how their exercise is impacting it. That's where we want to begin. And because of that, it's going to be a really exciting way to do this. The challenge means that we start with the Blu Poo package, which, again, I hope most of you have already. This is what it looks like. Inside, you have two components. First component is obviously the Blu Poo pill, and you take 2 per serving. And there's enough in here for 4 different tests, 4 different transit time and stool type tests. It also comes with this chart, this folded chart, Blu Poo chart. When we unfold it, first thing you'll notice is this is where we want to do, this is where we want to do our tracking information. That we start, the start time, and then we record when we see the blue in the toilet. And you shouldn't miss it. It's bright. It's not missable. And we have enough to do it 4 times, as I mentioned on this chart. That's the transit time. On the other side of this chart, we have the stool type. And these are the stool types, and you score them based on type. Now, if we once we record these and once you have handed these out, whether it be to yourself, your staff, your patients, and so on, we want the feedback. We want to be able to turn this into, the challenge is going to be essentially a scientific challenge, because we want to take all this data and start loading it onto the website. So, or excuse me, this Facebook chat right here on the Systemic Formulas and Alimentum Labs chat. And you can anonymize or make anonymous your input or your results of the patient. So patient A, patient 1, whatever name you want to choose, but we want to load on the transit time, and we want to load on the stool type, and then list any other types of conditions that maybe they're already dealing with, any symptoms that may be something they're already concerned about prior to taking this challenge. List those as well, because we're going to accumulate this data. We're going to chat about it along the way, but we're going to accumulate this data, and in the end, we're going to, on August 28th, you're going to join us again for a webinar, and we're going to not only review the data and look at how many people are dealing with slow transit time versus moderate versus rapid transit time, look at the types of symptoms they may be experiencing, diet, list diet if you can. Those kinds of things are going to be invaluable as we move this project forward, going from the understanding of what's going on with our patients' transit time and stool type into what kind of health conditions and how do we turn this around. As you know, it is deeply connected to our overall health. So this will be really exciting. So be sure to share those, because we're going to accumulate those, and we're going to actually pull those down and run some statistics for you before the 28th. We're also going to do it with our entire staff so that we have added statistics to the system. That's the exciting part. And then we're going to go from that point on, we're going to start protocoling. We're going to start looking at those, the ways in which we can reverse various transit times, various stool types. Everybody's going to have a unique approach in many ways, and in other ways there's going to be some commonalities amongst our approaches. It's not simply, as you've heard over the years, just eat more fiber, simply drink more water. There are some issues that might come up. For example, a number of drugs can impact transit time, and that will have to be addressed very carefully through the clinicians and their healthcare providers. But that aside, we're going to dial this in to be both a simple approach as well as a very personal approach over time. So please put that data on here so we have a lot of data to work with. And then join us again on the 28th of August, and you'll get some updates on that. If you want more of these cards, or you can go to the link. We will add that into this comment stream later. And then what we want to do is make sure that if you don't have these stool kits, please get them, because we need enough time between now and the 28th. How you exercise these Blu Poo challenges. Now, I encourage you can have fun with it. Now, I've had fun with it in the past. Generally speaking, to get a decent number of value for that patient, you make sure they're taking it with food, ideally in the morning with food, so that you can transit. Likely it's going to transit through the night, but we'd like to see that blue poop in the next day, 24 hours if possible. But it also gives you a chance to make sure that you don't take it at night and then end up having a nighttime event and it doesn't get recorded because you're half asleep and so on. So we encourage that. Now, if you want to have fun with this, if you have a patient that's in ketosis, we want to list that. If you have a vegetarian, we want to list that, because that it really does impact transit time, and it's actually quite a fun data point to collect, because various diets have short-term, meaning 1 to 3 month benefits on transit time, and that's something we'll talk about later. But we want to get back to what we consider the best version of our dieting system. But these diet challenges can tie into this transit time, and that's some of the relief people get when they switch from one diet to another, and they find that they're now no longer constipated. That's a real effect on the microbiota, as well as on the GI tract, and we need to understand those better for each patient, and then we address why that's happening and how to get back to where they are now and where they need to be. That's all I'm going to say for that. So please do this with us, because we want to gather the data. There is power in data, I promise you. We learn a lot, we teach each other a lot, and it gives us a lot of work to do in creating systems for us, for the practitioners, and for you, for your patients. So again, thank you for joining, and hopefully you're going to enjoy this just as much as I do. This is just the beginning of getting deep into our wellness model. So thanks again.